I've been watching a press conference coming to us live from Florida. That was Dave Auenberg, the Palm Beach County State Attorney, speaking along with Adrian Ellis, the Assistant State Attorney there in Palm Beach County. And they're not moving forward with any of these charges against Corey Lewandowski, the campaign manager for Donald Trump. They talked about their reasons why, and basically it comes down to one thing. They haven't got any evidence to move forward with. They are going to show a video that helped influence their decision, and we're going to continue monitoring that right now for you and bring it to you as that comes to the screen. But we want to bring in right now criminal defense attorney Brian Claypool for his reaction to this news that the county prosecutor is not going to move forward with charges against Corey Lewandowski. Brian, good to see you.
Nice seeing you, Trish.
So, just no evidence? Can't have a case without any evidence?
Well, no. Look, it's much bigger than that. The largest reason why Auenberg said they're not going to prosecute is because there is a different standard that's applied to a political candidate. And I don't blame him for saying that. In other words, he talked about this bubble. He talked about Michelle Fields possibly bumping up against Trump. He's worried that if you present that context to a jury of peers, and by the way, jurors in Palm Beach County where Donald Trump lives, then they're going to have a problem proving their case. And I believe most folks would agree with that. Now, Trish, if you and I were at a bus station, we got in an argument, and I grabbed your arm and bruised you, that's a much different situation. Different context, and a prosecutor could prove that case in a court. Well, but they're not going to be able to do so in this case.
You know, you heard that press conference along with me, and it was unclear just exactly what they thought about the bruises. For example, we did hear from Adrian Ellis, who is the assistant state attorney, talking about the bruise pictures. And she said, you know, really the challenge was that picture that they had was taken a couple of days later. They didn't have any pictures of the actual bruising on the day of, which I guess would further complicate things. But nonetheless, she did admit bruising doesn't show up for a couple of days. So how did those photos and the bruising issue come into play, do you think, in their minds?
Well, it's a very important point because it's what's called preservation of evidence. For example, there's a car accident. You want to get photographs right at the scene of the accident to see what the scene looked like. Same thing with the physical injury. If somebody's been injured, you need to preserve that evidence, get pictures right away. If you lose that chain of command, for example, 24 hours, 48 hours, an argument could be made, and I'm not saying it happened here, that possibly the injury occurred in another way, and that's the picture that we're seeing a couple days later. Yeah. So that's a hurdle that they have as well.
You know, Brian, I want to point out that the press conference is still going on, and we're getting reports coming into us about what they're talking about. One of the main points that they're bringing up as I speak is that Michelle Fields herself, Brian, touched Donald Trump. And that was part of the key to all of this. In other words, by her reaching forward to try and ask him a question, did that allow Corey Lewandowski to protect the candidate and move in to get him out of the way?
That's a great question. I think you're hitting on the biggest fact that I believe that the state attorney decided not to prosecute on. It doesn't excuse Corey Lewandowski from grabbing Michelle Fields' arm, but what it does, Trish, is it creates what's called a mitigating factor for the jury. A jury's going to hear that and say, wait a minute, she bumped into Donald Trump's arm? So a reasonable reaction from Lewandowski is, wait a minute, I got to protect my candidate from being harmed. So that's a mitigating factor that would filter into the jurors' minds, and I think that would lead to an acquittal if it was prosecuted.
Thank you so much.